Welcome back to, unfortunately, another travel news update from Indonesia. Things didn't really go well with the resort island of Bali reopening on October 14, some 6 weeks ago now. But things have taken a turn for the worst because of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 that is now spreading across the world, causing renewed travel restrictions. Before we talk about the new travel restrictions, let's look at how the previous so-called reopening has been for Bali and Indonesia as a whole. Well, it's quite sad actually, as there are virtually no foreign tourist arrivals in Indonesia in general, let alone the tropical resort island of Bali. There are no airlines that even picked up selling this destination as of today. As to the why, I talked about this in my previous video about Indonesia reopening on November 1st. So I will link that video in the description as well as in the upper right corner of your screen. In short, tourists can arrive in Indonesia, but have to follow quite a number of regulations to be able to actually enter. How are things going? First of all, there are no known or confirmed cases of the Omicron variant in Indonesia yet. That's about all for positive news. All passengers to Indonesia have to be at least partially vaccinated. They have to show a negative PCR test before departure to Indonesia and will have to quarantine upon arrival here. This quarantine period is what's changed in the last few days. That went from 3 days to 7 days, 7 times 24 hours to be exact. There is one odd regulation though that causes the most hassle and doubts in potential travelers to Indonesia. There is a sneaky regulation that all tourists traveling to Indonesia need to have a so-called sponsor in Indonesia. For tourists, this has to be a legal entity operating in the travel business. Why is that regulation there? People already need prepaid quarantine hotels, full travel insurance that covers COVID-19 and a ticket showing proof of exiting Indonesia again. So this all seems very complicated and useless. Also, why would any company take the risk of taking an unknown foreigner doing something in Indonesia they will be completely liable for? On top of that, I have had experiences of a few that actually tried to arrange a visa for Indonesia over the last 6 weeks, and they were asked up to $500 per traveler just to get that paper that states they have someone in Indonesia responsible for all their actions. That's pretty crazy, but hey, they can ask for it what they want as there is no way around it. And they do take full responsibility for you as a tourist. So there has to be some monetary gain there, of course. But the main reason tourists aren't traveling is not only the regulations on the Indonesian side, of course. Foreigners are simply not interested into traveling across the world just for a holiday. A big part of them chooses not to travel because of all the uncertainty, now proven to be correct with the sudden changes and renewed border closures in some countries. It's also the fact that many countries still have a negative travel list in the colors orange or red, for example. So travel just might not be covered by travel insurance, or they won't be repatriated for free once a border suddenly closes. These are risks a regular traveler just doesn't want to take. New quarantine requirements. Over the recent months, quarantine requirements entering Indonesia had steadily been shortened from 14 days to those 3 days, citing reasons that the incubation time of the Delta variant was shorter than earlier variants of COVID-19. Just a few weeks ago, it was decreased from 5 to 3 nights in a prepaid hotel with 2 PCR tests. One upon arrival and one shortly before leaving the quarantine facility. But per November 28, late in the evening, they always put out these bulletins later in the day, no clue why, as they usually go into effect after midnight, so effectively just a few hours of them being published. The quarantine requirements entering Indonesia have changed again. With the new Omicron variant suddenly popping up, Indonesia doesn't want to take risks of importing it just like that. Therefore, quarantine is back to 7 days now. Other regulations have not changed, it's just that you have to stay in a quarantine hotel for an entire week before you are released into the wild and able to enjoy your holiday. On top of the longer quarantine period for all inbound travelers, the country has also closed its borders for travelers from Angola, Botswana, Eswatini, Hong Kong, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Zambia and Zimbabwe. But the Omicron variant has already escaped to many other countries in the world, so it's a waiting game on the next step that Indonesia will take. Will it close for more travelers? Will they realize it's too late already and open up again? it's clear that this will make even the most seasoned traveler think again. Because what if you accidentally have a positive PCR test after arrival in Indonesia? In that case, they will keep you in quarantine until you test negative. The good thing is, you will be able to show your insurance for that, and your travel agency, aka sponsor, can also pay for it if you're out of money just arranging your trip to Indonesia. What about the upcoming holidays? Yes, they're coming up shortly, and while the number of COVID-19 cases is at its lowest since the Delta wave started several months ago, Indonesia isn't taking too much risks. Normally, any major holiday also means millions of Indonesians are traveling, but that's something that needs to be severely limited to prevent a new wave from occurring. The COVID-19 task force here has earlier published regulations that all regions of Indonesia will enter level 3 PPKM, social and economic restrictions, from December 24 through January 2nd, 2022. This means that traveling is possible, but it's strongly recommended not to travel though. Most places where people tend to gather, like malls, public parks, mosques and churches, will only be allowed at 50% capacity, and many places will close earlier in the evening as well. For those already in Indonesia, keep in mind that wearing a mask is mandatory once you're outside of your residence or hotel room. Fines up to 1 million rupiah, some €60, are handed out if you're caught not wearing a mask, and foreigners are at the risk of deportation. Foreigners have been expelled already, so don't try to be the smart one not wearing a mask, and be sure to stick to upcoming restrictions as well. Sources for regulations. As for sources, several different Indonesian authorities will give out regulations. We have the health and quarantine aspect that's decided upon by the Indonesian Ministry of Health. Whether you are allowed to travel to Indonesia and under what visa is decided upon by the Immigration Office. And then you have the local COVID-19 regulations that are in place that are issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs. On top of that, there's one more. The Ministry of Transportation decides what testing, mainly PCR or rapid antigen, needs to be done before any travel by public transport, plane and even car. As those are 4 different ministries with regulations that regularly follow each other in rapid pace, the Indonesian government has created a portal to publish all COVID-19 relevant regulations. This website can be found at covid19.go.id. The link to this website and the one of the Immigration Office are in the description below this video as well. Unfortunately, the main source of all these regulations and decrees issued by different ministries is all in Indonesian. Some news websites will bring an update once it's released, but often there is discussion on specific wording of parts of regulations which are then corrected a few days later, leading to double updates for just one change. It looks quite messy, and the view at the current page shows there has been an update from at least one of the ministries almost daily in the last week, so it's hard to keep up with the very latest of updates for sure. That's it for now. I hope I will have a more positive news update in the near future, but by then it will be 2022 already.